Hi everyone, it's Shane, and today I want to talk about how Charles Dickens aptly represents human nature. And I think that this is a very important theme because Charles Dickens is known for, his dramatic characters and all that. And he's known for like portraying human nature because his characters cover the entire range of emotions and types of people, right? There are like criminals, there are saints, there are people are so like corrupted or evil or so good and like wholehearted, and it's very it's filled with characters that most people would not expect to see in like a dozen lifetimes, right? Like we probably will not expect to see people like Pip from Great Expectations who gets great expectations and moves to London, or like runaway convicts who repay people, or people who like willingly walk to the guillotine so that another family can live happily. All of those things, like, it's very rare for us to see those aspects of Dickens' world, because let's face it, there's not a lot of people like that. In fact, that has led to some of Dickens' critics saying, look, Dickens is inflates his characters so much, right? All of his characters are like superlatives, right? If we look at characters, like for example, let's say that we're looking at A Tale of Two Cities, right? If we're looking at A Tale of Two Cities, the characters, they're not that realistic. We have what is Madame Defarge, who is like a bloodthirsty revolutionary who driven by the want of revenge for her sister's death. She just like she's she is willing to see the guillotining of dozens of people a day. We have kind-hearted people. We have people who are nearly driven to insanity and with 30 years of prison. We have very saintly people who resist their uncles who are big powerful lords in France, and instead go to London. I mean, like, most people will not resist such temptations of power. Or there's like a bunch of different other examples, but Dickens's world is very theatrical, right? Maybe because he himself wanted to be an actor when he was growing up. And so, this has led people to point out, look at this guy. He's writing about all of this stuff. Isn't it true that he isn't even portraying human nature correctly? He's just talking about crazy people. If we really want to analyze human nature, why are we looking to this guy who's writing about people who go back and forth from France rescuing their fathers and their husbands from the guillotine, right? I mean, I don't think that's very realistic. I don't think we're going to be seeing that in day-to-day life, right? And yeah, maybe, and I think that that's a very valid point. So today I wanted to talk about why that view is wrong and why Dickens actually uses that to more aptly represent human nature. So first, I think it is really crucial to point out that Dickens, first of all, needs to attract readers, right? His book was literally the TV series back in the day. I don't know a lot of TV series. I watch movies, not TV. But there's very famous TV series. I don't know, like The Mandalorian or whatever, right? Whatever TV series it is, it's very it can get very popular. People like dramas and stuff, and it really just sucks people in, right? People just when the next episode comes out, they read it. And his books were literally serialized, so they will come out in a monthly edition or whatever, and people will be like, oh my gosh, here's the newest newest chapter in Dickens' new book. Let's read it. And so this was like literally the TV series of Victorian England. And so obviously he needs something to pull people in, right? Like if we're watching a TV show, we don't want to be watching a show that's talking about like, oh, some guy, like it could be very realistic. It could be like, oh, some guy is poor, he's looking for work, and work is pretty hard to find. That's like pretty realistic, right? Work is hard to find. Poverty is a big issue. The critics of Dickens that we were talking about just before, they would say, look, that's like an amazing example of how we should be portraying human nature, because that's exactly how human nature works. Like, we're not like, right? We can actually see from this story how people respond to poverty, not like extreme situations that we're probably never going to run into. But would people read it? Probably not. Most people already experience such things to the point that they don't need to be reading about it as well, right? Or like, it's such a common part of life. You don't have to like read about read about something that you're already so familiar with that you don't need to read it, right? No, Dickens needs something to pull people in. And so I think that's like the first thing, because this might seem like, this might seem as if it's saying, oh, we shouldn't be like, we should first make sure that the story is fun so that pulls people in. And people could say, well, that doesn't really take away from the critic's point, which is saying whether or not it pulls people in, Dickens still did not represent human nature correctly. But I would say no, because I think that even if you represent human nature amazingly, if it's not put in a format or a setting that is interesting, then the person themselves are so not interested that they're not going to be able to absorb that information in themselves, right? And so I think that's like the first step that Dickens really took. And all of this might just seem like useless talk about like a literary book that we're probably never like this doesn't really seem that interesting, but by doing these types of literary discussions, I feel that it kind of widens our minds and kind of encourages us to have deeper literary analyses of books that we mostly just see questions like, oh, what was the theme? Or like, okay, yeah, why is it that like character XYZ wanted to do this thing, right? It's not only that, it's more like, oh, let's talk about the motives of the author themselves, which you need the book to understand, and therefore you're going into a deeper level, right? But anyway, going back to the discussion, I would say, not only that, but on the next level, my point is going to be that when we look at the grand movements of the past, we see enormous amounts of emotion. We see very extreme points that are embraced. Let's look at the, lots of the movements that we see that have actually impacted us are so horrible that most people would say, oh my gosh, what, why are we, it's unprecedented. Remember, in the 1930s, Hitler was gaining power, the Nazis were taking over the entirety of Germany. We would say, that's extremely severe. A dictator taking control of the entire country, blaming its economic collapse on a minority, and then starting the horrific Holocaust, which is so horrific that its horrors are untold. The concentration, the camps were so miserable that it's even hard to imagine. And yet, I think that in this type of world, Dickens fits right in. Because Dickens, while his characters, while it might not be always in the world that it's one person who, has so much of that, hate or anger, that to actually make a difference. I mean, Hitler did, and a lot of other global leaders who are also bad did, I guess. But still, at the end of the day, it's more like saying that it's my point more is that other than that, it's mostly when there's a movement, all of those people's collective emotions combine to form a very powerful movement, which can change governments, laws, society. And I think that Charles Dickens kind of got all that emotion and concentrated it into one character, so that they're vessels of vessels of emotions that are just traveling through the world and interacting with the world. And through that, Dickens really wanted to show us, look at these people. These people, they represent entire movements. They represent entire groups of people. They represent the broad swaths of change that actually make a difference in our world. We're not going to be seeing the entirety of the world be just changed because of like one mean factory owner. But if we look at this one very mean factory owner, he or she equals the collective like evil of all of the factory owners. I mean, I guess not that, but the point is that like through very extreme characters, Dickens is trying to like draw a parallel to big and extreme movements, because the movements that change our era, even if one person who says, oh, we should be like like voting for like proposition whatever, like that person maybe might just say, oh, I think that's like kind of true, yeah, so I want to vote for this. Well, if we have like a million people who all say, I think that we should still be voting for this, all of those people combined would still have a very strong opinion we should be voting for this, right? So I think that's what Dickens really wanted to show us, because over time and over history, the world is so chaotic and it's driven by such strong urges of passion, like and desire. For example, remember the civil rights movement, right? It was an amazing movement, right? People really decided to stand up for their civil rights. They decided to stand up for all the things that they believed in, and it was an unprecedented move that changed history. Something that had not happened in the last hundreds of years suddenly happened, which changed the entirety of the United States government, even included new laws, made new laws, forced people to rethink how they're going to restructure the entirety of society, and there's so much more. In the context of such a world, Dickens is not out of place, but instead it fits right in. And finally, I think it's also very important to think about the fact that like even if like all of these people and I think it's also like, yeah, I think that this is convenient, because if Dickens was writing about like broad movements, it would be kind of hard, right? It's like this entire group of people and this entire group of people like all interact. Not only would that be not like a very fun a book, but like also wouldn't it be more fun if we just had characters and an actual story that's realistic and funny and like actually something that's worth reading. So I think that's why Dickens matters, because he's one of the only reasons that, and there's a reason that it's him and not his critics that are actually a world-renowned author. There's a reason that he's famous, he's renowned for very impressive works, and his critics are not, right? And so I hope that this discussion really at least like opened the door as to like maybe the logic or the moral behind Dickens. And hopefully that also kind of showed you, hey, maybe there is, a deeper reasoning to it. And so when you look at Dickens again, maybe you can think, oh, this is not just like one fanatical character, but maybe this is representing an entire group of people. Or like maybe not an entire group, but like this is just representing how this one emotion can really, really, really make a difference, right? Because in the real world, the changes that actually affect us, they're not going to be some person being angry, right? It's not like some person on the other side of the world says, oh man, I'm really angry, right? I mean, so they can make a difference, maybe, right? One person can make a difference. I'm not saying that one person cannot. But most likely, that person's anger, we're not going to be feeling the impacts of that. But if we have an entire group of people who are all very angry on the other side of the world, then they're going to start making headlines. They're going to start making the news. They're going to start, and they're going to start like a movement, right? And also, I think a last reason why Dickens really did this was because I think that when we just have when we have like low levels of an emotion, let's say I'm angry, right? Then you can be annoyed, you can be angry, but it's not enough to really like clearly show us, oh, these are the implications of this exact emotion, right? It's not enough to say, oh, like, it's kind of being more concentrated and, like, kind of extreme, I think, is what really allows us to clearly see the implications of such behavior. It's not a neutral person who is feeling this. No, this is like a very bad person who's feeling this. And so we can really feel the impacts of like something, and we can also really say, oh, that's how the nature of a certain emotion works, right? So I think that's like the final reason. So hopefully, again, this kind of open your eyes to a new aspect of Dickens. And yeah, I myself will be reading some more Dickens, because he's written like an incredible amount of books, and once you get past like the very long words, they're actually very interesting. So I'll be reading some Dickens myself, and hopefully I'll try to decipher some of his themes as well. So happy reading, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.